Welcome to Inside the Octagon. I'm John Gooden in the company of Dan Hardy, and we're taking an in-depth look at the headlining bout at UFC 198, and it's for the UFC Heavyweight Championship. The evergreen Fabricio Werdum is in the midst of a 6-fight win streak that has propelled him to the heavyweight title. He meets relentless striker Stipe Miocic, who earned his shot by dispatching former champ Arlovski in under a minute. How will Werdum, the skillful submission artist, fare against the ferocious punching power of Miocic? The breakdown is coming right up. Okay, UFC 198, a belter of a card from Brazil. And in the main event, it's for the heavyweight gold. Fabricio Werdum, a 10th Brazilian to wear that gold around his waist. We were saying it in the opener, that win streak, 6 fights undefeated now in the heavyweight division. That's really quite something. Cain Velasquez was the immovable heavyweight at the very top for so long. Now, the heavyweight picture is very exciting.
Yeah, it's open right up, but for anybody to put a 6-fight win streak together is very impressive. You can look down any contender, any champion's record and see losses on there, because at heavyweight level, it happens all the time. I mean, they're hit so hard, there are so many different ways to finish these fights that it's going to take someone that can finish on the feet and on the ground to hold the belt. And to be honest, I think that Stipe Miocic is the same kind of fighter, so that's what makes this so interesting for me. Well,
I'm really excited to hear your take on both of these. Let's start with the champion then, and Werdum. So, he's a Jiu Jitsu guy, right?
Yeah.
Well, maybe not, because he's kind of cut through the field recently with his Muay Thai, which he's learned under Rafael Cordeiro, King's MMA. They are producing champions, and he's looked really very good with his striking.
He has, and it flows so naturally for him as well. It's a very relaxed, traditional Muay Thai style, which you would expect from that camp. And I think it serves him quite well in the heavyweight division, and the reason for that is because if you watch the Cain Velasquez fight, you can see how Cain sets a high pace and then starts to fade off as the fight progresses. Whereas Werdum starts off very relaxed. He picks his shots, he's quite relaxed.
Sort of lumbers through a little bit,
yeah. It's very lazy. It's quite a cheeky style, the way he approaches it, but he picks his opponents off with 60-70% shots and wears them down. And we've seen this throughout his fights, and he knows how to focus on particular weaknesses of opponents. As a good
I love that. It makes me smile just looking at him smile.
So with Nogueira, he knew Nogueira was going to push forward. He's got a good ground game, so he's not concerned about getting taken down, and he's a boxer predominantly, so he wants to push forward into punching range. And you can see Werdum chopping him down with low kicks, and then he starts to use this beautiful slips and rolls to change the angles against his opponent. Against Travis Browne, this for me was more of a statement of, yes, I can stand and trade with you. I'm not afraid of your power, and I don't need to rely on my jiu-jitsu to get the fight won. He was really aggressive in the Browne fight, and it kind of took Travis Browne off guard, particularly at the end of the first where he kind of jumped at him, and Browne was a bit unsure as to how to take it. The knees is the one thing I want to talk about in this playlist in particular. Against Roy Nelson, it served him very well in the clinch. He was also good at maintaining distance with a long reach. Beautifully placed teep as well. I couldn't leave that out.
Sits back as well and goes, yeah, that is a good one.
But you can see it's a smile on his face. It's a lazy style. It's a cheeky style. And this is quite a cheeky little tactic that he used as well here. He shoots in for a real low single leg on Mark Hunt, and to be honest, I don't think he even had any intention of landing it. He shoots in, Mark Hunt sprawls out, beautiful sprawl, back to his feet. And then we circle back and we find ourselves back in this position here. Now, we talked about this before with Anderson Silva, using eye line to set up fakes. Now, you can see Fabricio Werdum right now. Let me grab my green. And this, you can see his eye line is straight into Mark Hunt's. They're eye to eye right now.
Yeah.
And Mark Hunt's paying attention to this, and he's a wily kickboxer. He's seen all these tricks before. But as the fight progresses, you're going to see his eye line's going to change. And as his eye line changes, Mark Hunt reacts exactly how he would want him to.
Nice.
Yeah, you saw that. You saw that. So
quick.
Look at that eye line. You can see his body posture's changed, his eye line has changed, and he is looking at that front leg which he's just shot for. Mark Hunt's acknowledging this, so he's going to be ready to defend that. And as soon as Fabricio Werdum lowers his level, he springs up with a jumping knee.
Yeah.
And he catches him very cleanly on the chin with it, and he wouldn't have been able to do that unless he'd sold that takedown to Mark Hunt in the first place.
Because, of course, he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy. You're expecting him to want to take to the canvas.
And that fear of his ground game allows him to get those reactions out of people for takedown defence. There were a couple of times when Mark Hunt refused to engage with him on the floor. He knew the danger there. but Fabricio Werdum found a way to play that to his advantage and finish with striking, finish with a beautiful flying knee.
It's lovely. I call that the Lionel Messi as well, where
Yeah.
he goes to pass a different direction to his eyes. Fantastic stuff. You were saying to me earlier that you love the different contrasting fights, the striking styles in particular, of Werdum and Miocic. So let's take a look at Stipe then. A former Golden Gloves champion. He has looked, in my eyes, brilliant since that Stefan Struve fight.
Yeah.
He clearly took a step back, went away and worked on some stuff. And against Roy Nelson in particular, I thought he looked just superb.
He seemed to struggle with range a little bit against Struve, which, as you would imagine...
Understandable.
Yeah, anybody that's 7 foot tall is going to cause you problems with
Yeah.
the reach. But he didn't seem comfortable in that fight. Obviously, he travelled over to Nottingham as well, which is a distance
It's a
to travel.
very interesting place.
It is a bit, yeah. You've got to keep on your guard in Nottingham. But he just didn't look comfortable, and actually the knockout came almost from a slip. He looked like he'd stumbled. So it was like that fight gave him a lot of momentum, a lot of motivation to push forward and to start impressing people. And the Roy Nelson fight's a good example of what he's actually capable of on the feet. Really good at maintaining distance and landing clean shots until he knows he's hurt somebody, and then he starts pouring the pressure on. Now, it is quite a reckless striking style. He does get a little excitable sometimes when he can see someone's hurt. But because he's so technical, he can pick good, clean shots and piece punches together very well into a combination that is damaging. The right hand, though, he throws this with a lot of power and not a lot of distance on that. If you watch how short that punch is, and we're going to see it again against Arlovski in a second as well. Let's just get Maldonado back up off the canvas.
Well, while you're queuing that up, I mean, in past breakdowns, we've spoken about how you generate a lot of power right at the end of the strike.
Exactly.
But this is like a halfway point.
Yes, almost. Because he's very good at maintaining that distance. He's very good at keeping people on the end of that. But he's also good at seeming like he's out of distance. He kind of leans onto his back foot a little bit and edges his way in. So when he leans forward and he lands that shot, you're going to see it here. His whole body's going to shift forward. And when he lands his right hand, you can see how short the range is on it. Look at the body's going to shift forward, weight goes onto the front leg.
Right.
And then just a short twist. And look how close he is to his opponent. Now, a clean right hand would be a full extension.
Yeah.
But he's not needing it in these situations. Maldonado goes down. Now let's look at the next fight, his fight against Andre Arlovski, which is another good example of that short right hand. There it is.
Yeah.
Rocked him immediately, landed it on the ear, and you could see the equilibrium was rocked straight away by Arlovski. In the replay, you can see it in his eyes. Look how short that is. That's a 90-degree angle in that arm as it lands.
He's found
Big
a new
power.
way of getting maximum torque through his body position.
He has. And then when he can see his opponent's hurt, he is very good at pouring on this pressure. But he doesn't always go crazy raging onto his opponent like he is in that last shot. He is quite a measured fighter, and I will talk about that in a second.
Okay.
But if he gets you hurt, he will chase after that finish.
OK, so now we've spoken about the striking. Let's switch it up a little bit, and we have to speak about Werdum's Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. An ADCC champion, a world champion in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I think he was Mirko Krokop's grappling coach back in the Pride days as well. He is very, very well respected in those circles. And again, he's adapted this game so very well for mixed martial arts. He loves it when it goes down to the canvas.
He does. It's not always easy to get it there, and I will talk about that in a second, but when it does hit the mat, his transitions are so fluid. It's so beautiful to watch. And, you know, considered by most people as one of the best grapplers in mixed martial arts, along with Maya and Jacare.
Who are on this card, by the way.
Awesome.
What
What
a
a great
treat.
setup. Now, I picked this fight out. I'm just going to rewind this. I picked this fight out because this was my first live UFC event. This was UFC 85 in London.
Ah, the moments. I can see it in your eyes.
I was so excited to be there. And this was a good example of him fighting a really good striker in Brandon Vera and shutting him down using really nice takedowns. And this was really what stood out for me on the night. Beautiful trip takedown there. And then watch this next one against the fence where he pulls him, circles him off the fence and lands his full body weight. In this situation, most people would transition to a side control position. And we use this. This is quite a popular half guard passing technique where you use one foot to pry the other one apart. You can see his other leg here. So he's actually prying the half guard of Brandon Vera open at this moment. Now, normally people would slide through into a side control position
You
on
see
one
him
side.
switch his hips, yeah.
He's ready to do that, but as soon as he realises Brandon Vera is staying flat on his back, because of the pressure that he's got on his shoulders, he takes it straight to mount. He takes that risk,
Shortcuts.
transitions straight through to mount, and then sits up and pours on the pressure immediately and gets the referee's stoppage. This is a good example of not only having that ability to finish the fight on the floor, but your ability to get yourself into a position where you can land clean shots. Another argument for his Thai boxing was the Roy Nelson fight, where he took that lead leg away and jumped on the back. But this one really was the one that stood out to me against Nogueira, who's a very well-respected grappler.
Yes.
I have not actually got the finish, but I just want to talk about these transitions, just the way he moves around his opponent. Really nice. So
light
fluid
for a big guy.
Against a guy who has been considered as the best heavyweight grappler, on the planet for a long time. I mean, the sport's moving on, admittedly, but Fabricio Werdum seems like the person that is now taking on that moniker, that mantle of the best grappler in the heavyweight division.
Yeah.
It's difficult to deny it. This was a really interesting adaptation for me I want to talk about. Now, the Cain Velasquez fight, we know Cain Velasquez is a very aggressive, bull rush kind of fighter. He's going to push you against the fence. He's going to shoot a power double and take you down. And that's exactly what happens in this fight. Now, Cain shoots with his head to his left, so he's shooting to the right side of his opponent. It's just his most comfortable takedown that he uses. Now, in this situation, as this plays out, Cain Velasquez is going to shoot him for this takedown, and you're going to see Fabricio Werdum wrap. You can see he's given this leg. He's not bothered about defending the takedown because he feels comfortable in his defence and in his attack. So he's locked over now. He's got an over the neck and over the arm. He's got an arm in guillotine. Now, as this moves through, you're going to see Cain Velasquez is wise to this guillotine, and he's going to actually make sure he gets to the side of Fabricio Werdum's guard. The danger would be to land in between the legs. So you can see how he passes this leg as he moves around. So Fabricio Werdum, being the smart grappler that he does, he elevates him with this knee and creates a scramble out of it, which gets him back to an open guard position, which is quite comfortable for him. But this is the finish of the fight. So let's watch this. The same thing's going to happen. Cain Velasquez is going to lower his level, and he's going to shoot his head to the side of his opponent. Again, the same situation happens. He gets wrapped up. He's got the arm in guillotine. But Werdum is making an adjustment to this because he knows that Cain Velasquez is going to try and pass. He's going to try and shoot his legs around to this side to avoid that guard position, which is what's going to get him caught.
It's a double, not a single this time as well, so that grip's not as strong.
Exactly, and that allows him to adjust slightly. So as this takedown progresses, you're going to see Fabricio Werdum bring his left leg up really high. There it is. There it is. So that's preventing Cain Velasquez moving around to that side. It's trapping him in the guard position. Yes. So as soon as he lands, he wraps that up and he can extend that neck
That's
fully.
Right there, an uh-oh moment.
Yeah, that was a silly mistake. That was a silly mistake. Here it is again. So you can see Werdum wrapping around straight away. He's going over the arm in guillotine. Yeah. And as we're going to land, you're going to see this leg come really high up to the side. Look, it immediately picks that knee up. It's the first thing that happens. The other leg is on the floor as he's picking that up because he's aware that that's an opportunity to pass. And that won him the heavyweight title. From one adjustment, from Cain Velasquez shooting in, him recognising that he's going to try and pass to that side and thinking the second time that happens, I'm going to make sure there's a trap there to catch him in that and suck him into that guillotine. It was a beautiful performance. I like a thinking fighter. I like a fighter that sees a problem and solves it in the heat of the fight. It's a very, very special fighter can do that.
Yeah. Talking about thinking, some people have been thinking about some questions for you. So thanks to everyone who sent their stuff over via Twitter. And we are going to go with the MMA Guru.
MMA Guru. Should I touch this?
Yeah, go for that. Yeah, save me a job.
Take your job off you.
So Werdum has the advantage on the ground, but his stand-up has never looked better. Where do you feel Stipe has an advantage?
Where does Stipe have the advantage? Well, let's talk about where Werdum controls the fight. So we know he's a good Thai boxer, so you would think at range he's going to control the fight with his kicking ability, potentially with those knees and with the long reach. Miocic is a good boxer, so he can potentially work his way inside that. But if the fight ends up on the floor, Werdum moving off his back is very, very dangerous. Yeah. What Stipe Miocic has is an NCAA background in freestyle wrestling, which means to me that he can actually control the range of the fight. He can decide whether the fight is fought in the clinch, on the ground, or on the feet, and that takes that option away from Werdum. So although Werdum has the finishing ability at the ends of each spectrum, the centre part is controlled by Miocic, in my opinion, because he has that wrestling ability. And it's good wrestling ability. It can be used both defensively and offensively. But look how tentative it's making JDS here. He's moving. He's not sure whether he's gonna punch or he's gonna shoot. And JDS just can't settle into anything. He just never looks comfortable. Against Mark Hunt, it really just took Mark Hunt out of his game. Every time he stepped forward to land a big, powerful punch, Miocic was ducking underneath. Beautiful single and power doubles. Look at that single. Circles him, drives him to the fence, and then immediately clamps down on top of him. It really just shut Mark Hunt's game down. And Hunt's got good takedown defense. I mean, he doesn't necessarily look like he would be very agile, but you'd be surprised. Against Roy Nelson, this was much more of using his wrestling game to keep his opponent guessing. Look at that level change. Goes for a single, which he was never really intending on getting, and then stands straight up to land a couple of shots. But then he's also got the option to put the fight on the floor. And look at that head pressure as well. We've talked about this before. I like this. These are things that are used in freestyle wrestling, which people don't generally do a lot in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, which can, to a certain extent, throw off a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu practitioner. What I'm talking about is that head pressure, driving that head down. And you can see he's got the hook around the back here. That's actually driving Roy Nelson onto his shoulders, onto his head. So all of his weight's going down onto his head, but he's actually keeping him on the mat as well. It's a really difficult position to escape. And as you can see, as Roy Nelson starts to frame up out of it, that allows him the ability to start landing some short shots, which again keeps Roy Nelson on the defensive. Beautiful head pressure here. JDS, distracted by the head pressure, uncomfortable with that, gives up a double leg takedown. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do for Miocic, and I'm not saying that if he finds himself in this position that it's game, set and match for Werdum, because it's most definitely not. He's a wise fighter. He's got good submission defence. He also has the wrestling ability to be able to find his way out of positions and not find his way into another dangerous position because of his balance and strength. So I think his Division 1 wrestling ability is going to stand him in really good stead in any grappling exchanges in this fight.
OK, so how does Werdum, therefore, get it down to the canvas?
Well, he has a little trick that he likes to use.
Cheeky little chappy.
A cheeky little trick. We talked about something similar with the Nate Diaz-Conor McGregor fight, which actually turned out to be the case. He puts enough pressure on you to make you shoot. Now, that's the Diaz brothers' approach. Werdum has a slightly different tactic, and I call it playing possum. Now, I'm gonna talk about this. Watch this. So he takes a shot there. There's no doubt he gets hit with a clean shot.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. Even the next replay, you can see that it lands cleanly at the top of the ear. But as he's going down, this is something that I like to watch out for. He's put his hand down on the mat. He knows that he's going down. He's not rocked. He's not disorientated. Yeah. He's aware of what's going on. So he's using this as an opportunity to try and draw somebody in. It's like, I'm hurt, I'm vulnerable, come and finish the fight. And then he jumps on you and
wraps you up. It's like the really unpopular pulling guard, which everyone boos at, but because he's just taken a little knock.
Yeah.
So, he's
exactly.
injured.
Yeah.
Okay.
So some fighters would then, obviously, as we've seen it, you knock somebody down, you go, here's the finish, you rush in, you land a few more shots. But so people get wise to it. Mark Hunt's not going to buy into this. He does it again here. He drops down. Mark Hunt steps away, and he even scoots in to try and pull him down to the floor. Watch Mark Hunt's face. Little eyebrow raised there. I love these expressions. Again, he does it with Roy Nelson here. But the reason that he likes this tactic, and Roy Nelson buys into this, given the fact that he
saw him smile as he was coming down. He's like, oh, yes, this
he knows it's working. And the best opportunity to see this is in the Fedor-Emelianenko fight, where he was caught in a trade, he got rocked with a shot, went down, and immediately Fedor, being the aggressive fighter that he is, jumped straight in on him to try and get that TKO finish. But you could look at this beautiful hip movement, scooting around, finds himself in a position where he can lock up that triangle and then focuses on the armbar. And you can see Fedor really trying to force his way out of it, but there's a begrudging tap coming in a minute from Fedor. He really doesn't want to give this up. And, he was on top of the world at this point. There was nobody else that had beaten him, but,
the one tap.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Damn it, that white belt.
Oh, I can't believe you got me with that. It was a good tactic. It worked against Fedor. It may work against somebody else in the UFC, but that is an option that he will employ. But I've got to give Stipe Miocic credit. He's not the kind of fighter that's going to just fall into a trap like that. I mean, this is a beautiful example of him taking Struve down and Struve immediately going for an ankle lock and bailing out, circling back to the centre. And then this is a shot where he catches Maldonado with a clean punch, rocks him, runs up to the fence and then stops a second.
Off.
Yeah,
Very
he waits.
Careful.
Very intelligent. Because, I mean, why rush in? Why rush yourself into a clinch and allow the guy to recover when I think it was 20 seconds later, he found that punch again and finished the fight with it. And here's the replay of that punch. Beautiful. Whereas if he'd have got caught up in the adrenaline, gone charging forward and got caught in a clinch. If he does that against Werdum, he doesn't know what he's running into. You know, it's one thing running into a guy like Maldonado, but if you follow Werdum to the mat, you could be running into a triangle.
And I've noticed he really doesn't like following his opposition up to the fence.
No.
He likes to reset and come back to the centre of the octagon as well.
Yeah, we have noticed that. We talked about it earlier. You mentioned how you notice he always runs back. It's almost like it's a reset for him because he likes that space to rush into. So it's an interesting matchup. I mean,
really
you know,
is.
both of these guys are so skilled in every area of the fight that it could go any way. I mean, we could see the belt changing hands again.
This is awesome. Love it. And there's so much more to look forward to at 198. Let's take a look, actually, at the main card. It kicks off very nicely indeed. But let's, for a moment, Cyborg in the UFC.
Finally.
Fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
And Leslie Smith, well done to Leslie Smith for stepping up. All to play for her.
It's a great opportunity. She's a very durable Thai boxer as well. It's a good fight for her, I think. And Maya Brown, I've got to give a shout out to that. That's a really exciting fight.
Sure is.
And the main card, obviously, Silver Hall, we're going to do a one-round breakdown of that, which we've got coming up for you in a bit. At Sousa Belfort, we're also going to cover that, and then the main event we've just covered for you. So it's a stacked card. There are so many good matchups. Really, real heavy Brazilian talent in there, but some real competitive matches. I mean, Matt Brown's not going to go down without a fight, I can guarantee that.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely. Well, yeah, as you just said, pretty much the best of the Brazilians will be competing at UFC 198. And bearing that in mind, please take a look out for episode 2 of Inside the Octagon, where Dan and I will be breaking down the highly anticipated middleweight encounter between Jacare Souza and Vitor Belfort. Plus, a little extra for 198 as we have a new one-round edition profiling the electrifying bout between Anderson Silva and Uriah Hall. Keep the discussion going in the comment section below, and we'll see you soon for episode 2.